Councillor O'Connell.
Thank you. I'm just curious through the chair to staff in regards to the monitoring and the council resolution that is already on the books in terms of state-of-the-art monitoring. Will the plan that's been sent to the ministry, is that being reviewed in terms of ensuring it's upheld state-of-the-art when we're hearing that there are already other monitoring facilities that are farther advanced than us? What's the status of that council resolution then, given the monitoring plan?
That council resolution was regarded in the development of the monitoring program. That monitoring program has been submitted in draft form to the Ministry of the Environment. And there's two parts to it. There's the ambient air monitoring, which the EFW Waste Advisory Committee had extensive input on and actually made it much more robust than was first proposed. With respect to the internal air monitoring program, Covanta has carriage of that, but it does have to conform to the certificate of approval, and the certificate of approval was extremely prescriptive with what that monitoring program had to include, what items had to be monitored, how they were to be monitored. It's extremely prescriptive. So when the certificate of approval conditions were developed, we took into account Council's direction to put state-of-the-art best technology. Not to say that we're going to blow our brains out on something that's experimental and esoteric, but what we have in place will ensure that the facility does operate safely.
Thank you. A follow-up to that, does it describe the frequency? If monitoring once is considered state-of-the-art, once a year, and I recognize that there are differences in monitoring in terms of, external and internal. And
well, for a number of the parameters, we do continuous monitoring. We've got opacity, which is a proxy for monitoring particulate matter. We do continuous sampling or accumulation of samples for dioxins and furans. What the stack monitoring does on the once-a-year basis, it basically confirms that what everything else is indicating is correct. So it's basically ground truthing the rest of the parameters that we're putting forward.
And wouldn't the other areas with incinerators that have the stack testing more than once a year also be just confirming what's being done inside? So wouldn't having a greater sample just ensure quality?
Not necessarily. I'm not certain of the regulatory environment in Germany or in British Columbia, but I'd love to have the air emission standards that they have in British Columbia, because ours are infinitely tighter than British Columbia. So you can't pick and choose bits and pieces from different regulatory environments, because it's all put together to make something that works for their situation. You can monitor on a more frequent basis. Every time we do a stack test, it costs between $100,000 or $150,000. So the idea is to try and do that with other methods that are less expensive and just ground truth it on a as-required basis. In Ontario, the standard is stack testing once a year.
Thank you. Now, if the council resolution is state-of-the-art, isn't that essentially doing just as you described, picking and choosing of the best technologies, the best practices to make us state-of-the-art and not meeting the minimum requirements? So how is council resolution of state-of-the-art monitoring consistent with Ontario regulations as a minimum?
Well, I'll argue that we are doing state-of-the-art monitoring. The issue that you're raising, and has been raised, is the necessary frequency for that. Should we do stack testing every day? Should we do stack testing every hour? We get to a ridiculous extreme. Once a year has been considered to be adequate to confirm it in Ontario, and that
adequate
is
but not state-of-the-art.
Well, I believe it is state-of-the-art. We've got state-of-the-art monitoring in there. We're confirming it once a year. Do you want to do it once a month? Do you want to do it once a week? Do you want to do it once a day?
Well, will that monitoring program, you said that it was sent as a draft form to the ministry, then when and how is the final monitoring plan established? Will it go back to the committee? Will it come back to council at any point prior to being submitted to the ministry, where we could then ensure that the intention of council is being upheld?
Yeah, the draft has been submitted to the Ministry of the Environment. The Ministry of the Environment will approve or modify it. Once the ministry has spoken on it, I'll be happy to report back to council. If council wants to incur additional costs to upgrade that, you'll be welcome to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Which is what we've always said. You want to spend more money? We'll spend it for you.
Well, I have no doubt.
We will.
How much was the party?
Not enough, apparently. Or I'm sure you would have shown up. Any other questions?